A quick disclaimer before this episode. This episode discusses astral projection, and we talk about some kind of disturbing things that were experienced in and around astral projection. So listener discretion is advised. Do you wonder about past lives? Have you ever thought about where your soul has been, where it's going, or what lessons and memories have been gathered along the way? In this podcast, we will discuss past life memories, psychic phenomena, energy healing, and other metaphysical topics with experts and the average person to find out how we can heal through these experiences. So I invite you to join me on my journey. Welcome to the Regression Session. Yeah, I don't have a plan.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Regression Session. My name is Ian. Welcome to the Regression Session. To any new people, thank you for tuning in. I don't think I've ever said this, but if you haven't done this already in your podcast player, in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you're listening, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss my weekly shows. I upload a new episode every Sunday at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. And I don't want any of you beautiful people to miss hearing my beautiful, beautiful voice every week. So hit the follow button to receive all the updates and everything like that. Also, don't be afraid to share the podcast around with your friends and family. I know that they'll love it. This week, we're going to be hearing from Brandon. Brandon has already been on my show back on episode 15. So after this episode, definitely go back and listen to that one. He has some super crazy astral projection stories. This episode is it gets a little weird. But that's okay. I'm here to push the boundaries and extend my comfort levels for you guys, for your entertainment. If you would like to come on the show, shoot me an email. My email is theregressionsession@gmail.com. And here is my conversation with Brandon 2.0. Brandon, it's great to have you back.
It's great to be back.
And we were just talking. I just want to jump right back into that conversation as if we never had to stop and say, hey, Brandon, thanks for coming back on.
All right.
But what I was going to tell you, one of my episodes, it was with a dude named Shimi.
Mm-hmm.
And he sent me this picture. Okay.
Picture.
Yeah. So on my Facebook, I post a few of them on my Twitter. I don't know if you follow my Facebook.
Is that the one with the clouds and the people and stuff?
Yeah, it's that guy.
I saw it.
He had some really, really interesting stories. I honestly only put into my show less than half of the stories that we talked about. I have like almost 4 hours worth of his stories.
Wow.
So he has a ton of content. But I had this dream, and this is going to be really like kind of f***ed up for any listeners listening. It really messed me up for a minute. And I had this dream back when I was like 17. I didn't know what to make of it. And I just kind of chalked it up to maybe being like a horny teenager or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like, it was really messed up. So what the dream was I was in this facility, right? And it was like this metal facility kind of a place. And on this metal slab in the middle of this room that had like 2 doors in it, it it's hard to describe because I have aphantasia, so it's hard for me to
Mm-hmm.
recall. But there was this. Oh my god, dude! Just saying it's so fucked up. Okay, so there was this woman
Mm-hmm.
on the table,
Mm-hmm.
and she had no limbs.
Oof.
Okay, she had no limbs, but they were like they weren't like severed, right? It was like
They're
she was,
just not there.
yeah, it was like she was born that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she was a slave. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. No, I get the
You know what I'm
context.
talking about. And they basically like made it so she couldn't run away by having no limbs in this dream.
Wow.
And then I started participating, and I woke up horrified, and I was like, what the
Wow.
I was horrified, and I didn't know, and I just kind of chalked it up. But fast forward, 10 years or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
talking to Shimi, he sent me all these pictures, and he sent me a picture of that. And he's like,
What?
this is something that I saw in
Wow.
one of my astral projection things. He showed like a naked, limbless woman, and he was like, she was a clone that was being used in trafficking for slavery.
Wow.
And they cloned her with no limbs so that they couldn't get away. And it really disturbed me, man. That was really disturbing to me. It really messed me up for like 3 or 4 days, where I was
Yeah, I
like,
would
what?
imagine.
And he said it was back in the 1980s. And I was like,
Oh.
what in the world did I see? What is this? Because I forgot about the dream. That was 10 years ago, or so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember
So
exactly.
it's like a
when.
flashback.
Yeah, I saw that, and
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was shook. I
Yeah,
literally
no,
gasped.
this stuff is real. It's just the hard part is knowing whether something is real or whether it's psychologically real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's a little bit too big of a coincidence for me. He drew exactly what I saw,
Yeah.
except
Wow.
his had hair and mine was bald.
Wow. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was disturbing, man.
I would imagine, yeah. No, I've seen some disturbing shit, so I mean, I can relate.
So you wanted to talk to me about my ring, the experience that I had with my ring.
Yes. Yeah, I did. But we should probably recap it. So why don't you tell me,
All right.
what everything that went on?
Yeah, so I have some ever since I was like a kid, for whatever reason, I had this irrational fear of like at first it was about losing my I'm the oldest child. At
Mhm.
first it was about losing my brother and sister. So and this is gonna get really personal.
Mm-hmm.
So my audience is gonna know me really well after this. And so I'm putting myself out there, but
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Criminal Minds on TV, and I was alone in the house except for my parents. They were in like their back room doing something. I don't know. I don't recall the whole thing, but they were in the house with me. My brother and sister were playing outside, and I was watching Criminal Minds by myself in the living room. And there was this episode where this guy kidnapped children and then killed them. And I all of a sudden had this like realization, and I turned around and like looked at our family photos on the wall, and I had this realization like, holy shit, my siblings could get kidnapped, and I'm the one that has to protect them. So that morphed. I ran outside that exact moment, and I told them to get inside right now. And for like 4 years, man, I made their life a living hell by just like following them everywhere they went. It was like super bad anxiety. And this might be more context than you asked for. But anyway, I went into high school, and it was all, or like even like middle school, it was all good. I just kind of like forgot about it, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's whatever. And then I went all the way through high school, and then all the way until I was a father. And then all of a sudden I started having anxiety about my son, not about like the kidnapping thing, but just like losing him in general. And I think that every parent kind of experiences that on some level. because you love your kids for the most part. And if you
Yeah, I
don't,
think
you're
so.
an asshole, by the way.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
put that out there. If you don't love your kids, you. But
Hmm.
that's kind of where I was at. And I have this ring. It's like a Viking ring. I feel
Hmm.
really like drawn to Viking culture. Not necessarily like the killing part or the plundering,
Hmm.
but just like their magic and their whole entire concept of like their pantheon and things like that. It's
Their
really fascinating.
mythology.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting to me. So I have this ring. It cost me a lot of money back when I was rich. I bought it and I've suffered from nightmares, like
Hmm.
horrible, horrible nightmares for decades.
Oh,
And
wow.
like most of the time it was like literal demons like tormenting me and pulling like ripping me apart or ripping someone I
Wow.
cared about apart. It was pretty kind of messed up. And I was like getting desperate because it was affecting my sleep. So I tried like sleeping pills that made it worse, and so I threw those
Oof.
away. I tried meditating, that helped a little bit, but
Hmm.
not really. And then I was just desperate. I tried dream catchers and that kind of worked,
Hmm.
and I think it was a placebo. And then
Hmm.
and then I reached out to my friend. He was on my show. His name's Ashton. He
Hmm.
came on and he was in. I talked to him about this privately, but I was like, dude, I am having the worst nightmares. And he's like, have you tried enchanting something and sleeping with it next to you? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, try that. I was like, okay. So I got my ring. I made out this spell and I did it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. This is going
Hmm.
to be like everything else. And then all of a sudden the nightmares stopped. And I was like,
Yep.
what the hell? And it worked.
Hmm.
But he told me, hey, if you're going to do this, you need to cleanse this ring. You need to like put it in salt overnight once a week or so
Hmm.
and cleanse it that way and do some energy cleansing on it. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I didn't do
Right.
it for like months.
Hmm.
So fast forward to the night I was actually during my interview with Chrissy and Vera,
Hmm.
um, they came on my show a few episodes back. Like right in the middle of the episode, there's this part where I like stop talking really
Yeah.
hard. And that's when this happened. So if you go back, there's like kind of an awkward silence. I tried my best to like cut it out,
Yeah.
but I was having these thoughts like hit me in the front of my head. And whenever
Hmm.
something's coming from outside of me, I always feel it in the front of my head and it
Hmm.
just overpowers all the rest of my thoughts. It's the only thing I can think of
Oh,
when these things
interesting.
happen to me. And so it was like, your son's not going to live past 5. Your family's going to get in a car accident and die next week. You're going to die of cancer. You're going to die of this. Um,
Hmm.
your mom's going to die on the way to work. Blah 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 blah. Just all
And
these horrible thoughts.
that was with if I'm remembering correctly, those are the mediums, right? The one girl's a medium.
Yep. Chrissy and Vera. There was 2 of them. It's
Okay.
the only episode I had 2 people on
Hmm.
as of right now. But yeah, it was during that episode, and then all of a sudden I get this even more powerful thought kind of like pushing aside, and I know what it was now after learning some things that I've learned since then.
Hmm.
But it was my spirit guide, which I've since developed a better relationship with. But
Awesome.
it was just this very clear thought that said take off the ring, and so I took off the ring and set it down on the counter or on my desk here, and all of a sudden my brain went clear and I was able to finish the episode.
Hmm. And you were also mentioning with the Astral Projectioner from Israel. Did what what were you saying about him?
He was the one that I was talking about with the messed up dream I saw with the slave.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
it wasn't related to the ring then, or
No.
no? Okay.
No,
I
that
was just
was
checking.
yeah. He sent me a picture of a
Yeah.
drawing that he
Right.
had seen that was exactly what I saw
Yep.
in
I
my dream
remember.
like 10 years
I
ago.
remember. Yeah. Yeah. I was just because uh I wasn't sure exactly if there was like related to the ring on that one, but yeah. So do you have like what's your current thought right now on what was causing that or what triggered it? Because I have my own ideas, my own speculation. So I'd like to hear what your speculation is.
I don't think it was like an entity or anything like that. Um, I think that what it might have been, because the enchantment originally, what it was, and keep in mind for anybody listening that's a skeptic, I straight up didn't even believe that this was that this was going to work, and then
Hmm.
it did. And so at first it was to protect me from nightmares, and that was it.
Hmm.
And then it morphed into protecting me from negativity. And then it morphed into protecting people that were around me from negativity. And that takes a lot of energy, you
Mm.
know.
Hmm.
And I think that feeding that energy, it almost acted like a sponge
Hmm.
and was sucking up all of my anxieties and all of like that energy that it was supposed to like deflect. It kind of like
Hmm.
took some of that on. And then because it wasn't like I've dealt with some intelligent
Hmm.
entity before, like haunting a place that I lived, and it would
Mm.
just screw with
Okay.
me. It didn't feel like that. It just felt like it was exuding that, and then I took it off and it
Right.
stopped.
Yeah. No, that kind of makes sense because there was a couple ideas I had on it. One instance is when you do enchant an item, you're putting sort of your intentions, your framing, your perspective into it because like you're shaping the energy that's getting put into it. So sometimes people, um, there's idea in Jungian psychology of the shadow, and if people don't have an integrated shadow, um, sometimes their shadow can twist that and the intentions in the subconscious mind. Um, and then there's another possibility, and that is that you're creating a pool of energy that's attached to an object. And when you create a pool of energy that's attached to an object, an entity could possess it or in an attempt to sort of access that energy. Um, so those are a couple ideas that I had.
Yeah, and I thought about a couple of those things, but really, it just kind of felt like I hadn't done a cleansing audit in like 2 months
Yeah.
or so. I just kind of felt like it got full, for lack of a better
Yeah,
term.
no, that makes sense actually. Now that you put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did a cleansing on it that night, and something weird happened to me that I also wasn't expecting, because I kind of thought that this stuff was just kind of like this is this is just a placebo effect, or
Hmm.
this is just it's not like real. It's just real in my mind. It makes me feel better.
Right.
That's basically what I
Right.
excuse me, what I thought. And so I went and I did this spell. It was a pretty elaborate, and the way I do it is I just draw out my intentions on a piece of paper with like
Hmm.
pictures symbolizing to me what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I place and I do it in a circle, and then I place this little this little container full of like different stuff like cinnamon and pepper and
Hmm.
salt and
Hmm.
basil and bay leaf in it,
Hmm.
because that's what my friend told me works, and I was like, yeah, okay, why not? Anything helps.
Yeah.
And then I put my ring in there, and well, actually what I did is I have this like it's like a crystal that my ring can fit perfectly on top of
Hmm.
if you set it on top. I put that in the salt thing,
Hmm.
and then what I did is I tried not magic. I actually learned that from you, Brandon, from our
Yeah,
episode.
the chord. I think usually I call it chord magic because not NOT versus KNOT is confusing to some people. But yeah, yeah, tying a knot, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I did is as I took this a candle and I
Hmm.
lit it, and I with the intention of like, this is my energy,
Hmm.
right? Like this is going to symbolize my energy. And then I found just whatever I had, which was a phone charger.
Hmm.
And I took it and I tied a knot and set it down around this, or I put it around the candle and around the ring
Hmm.
crystal thingy. And I
Hmm.
let go, and I was like, man, that was a lot of effort for nothing. And then within like 1 minute, I slumped over and I was like, holy sh. I felt like I just worked a 12-hour day.
You used a lot of energy. So it
Yeah, well,
sounds like.
dude, it
Yeah.
was so weird because I was feeling really awake. I was feeling really, really good.
Hmm.
Um, it was a Friday night. I was ready to stay up and like just chill and play some
Hmm.
games with my wife or something. And I just slumped over right on my counter and I looked at my wife. I was like, did you see me, what had just happened to me? She was like,
Yeah.
no, obviously not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it sucked energy out of me. And I was just like, Jesus, dude, it was weird. It actually creeped me out a lot because I wasn't ready for it to
Hmm.
actually like take energy from me, which was really weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it depends because if you set a bunch of intentions and you don't, if you're intentionally giving it energy, like you can sort of dictate the amount, which can sometimes dictate the effectiveness and the amount of effect. But when you're dealing with something where you're just doing a raw intention, it's going to just take as much as it needs, basically.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I basically just sent it out.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I opened my window and told it to get out of my house.
Vanished it. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the whole story. And I know it was kind of like a big long story, but there you go. Magic is weird.
Oh yeah. No, it's super interesting. Yeah, I don't have a ton of practices when it comes to magic, but it's mostly just chord magic and astral, and that's about it for me. I do meditation, obviously, and a few other practices. So,
You
like one
ever
that one that I really like is with tea. So,
I
making
do
myself
like
a cup of
tea.
tea, sort of ritualistically. Yeah, because you
Get
can feel that you can sort of like charge the tea with energy because water is just a really good carrier of energy. So,
That's true. It takes on the characteristics of whatever you put into it.
hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense actually if you look at it that way.
Yep.
Have you ever looked at the work of Dolores Cannon?
I haven't. Um, most, it's most of my practice is just very direct. It's very much like uh, I sort of take on the effort of going there and seeing stuff myself, and I enjoy reading other people's stuff. But man, there's so much out there that's just BS that it's hard to find good. You know what I mean? Hard to find good stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily buy into everything that Dolores Cannon says, but
Mhm.
but basically, who do you know who she was at all?
I know from stuff you mentioned in the past on like episodes, but no, you
Yeah.
should probably give me a basic understanding.
Yeah. So Dolores Cannon, she was one of the early pioneers of past life regression work. She
Hmm.
was doing it back in like the 60s.
Hmm.
So she was really doing it. And weirdly enough, she was like into aliens
Hmm.
beforehand and then just kind of like got into hypnosis to do
Mm,
like
right.
alien stuff. Like when people were like, I think I was abducted, she would regress them to their abduction, but then
Yep.
people would like slip into past lives. And then she kind of exploded with popularity. She ended up writing something like 27 books or so about
Oh
all this
wow.
stuff. And she has some theories, but to be honest with you, it almost became like a cult. I don't think she was trying to do that, but when you do work like that,
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
kind
it's
of spawns it.
it can attract the wrong attention.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that she did is she would go through and she would get information from different subjects,
Hmm.
and she used a tape recorder, obviously, back then.
Hmm.
Um, and she would ask people about like Atlantis or like
Mm.
about Jesus um or Nostradamus or whatever. And she
Mm.
would like catalog and record all this information and people were giving her the same and like the same
Hmm.
roughly the same answer across different subjects, like different
Yeah.
patients or whatever you want to call them. And one of the things that she talked about is this energy work and
Hmm.
how your thoughts are real and they're physical.
Hmm.
They're not like as physical as we are, but they're when you send out thoughts, you're actually sending something out, and that's why people that have the habit of saying like, "Oh, my life sucks," and I
Hmm.
have the worst luck ever, and man, I'm this is going to be a really shitty day.
Yeah.
Like those people get exactly what they're looking for because they're sending out literal like manifesting energy basically is what she
Hmm.
says.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of understand that. Obviously, I think that there's one reality. I think I mentioned that in the last episode I was on. But I just think of it as like one reality with many layers, the physical just being one of those layers. So,
Yeah. Well, when I talked to you the first time,
hmm.
I like I've had like a complete shift since then because back then I was like and I talked to you like episode 15.
Hmm. Yep.
Well, actually it was before that, but I uploaded it as episode 15.
Yep. Yep.
And I was out to prove it. I was out to like prove like, oh, I'm a past life regression hypnotist. I don't even call myself a past life regression hypnotist anymore, man. I call myself a spiritual hypnotist because the way I look at it now is not like here and there. It's like you're just changing the frequency on a radio dial, is basically how I look at it.
But you have a bit more perspective now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some crazy stuff go down in some hypnosis sessions since then
Oh,
that have
yeah. Yeah.
changed my perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyone who gets into this sort of thing and takes it seriously and tries it out and is open-minded tends to find pretty good evidence. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is that nowadays I when people talk about like let's just say mediums for example,
Hmm.
when a medium talks about like, oh, your grandma from the other side is
Hmm.
coming in. When they say other side, I'm just like, dude, that's like really limiting like
Yeah.
that's how I feel. It's like really limiting what's actually going on because there's not just like here and there. They're here. They're just on a different frequency.
Yeah, I mean, like from my perspective, like it's easy way to communicate to someone who doesn't quite understand it as being another side, because it requires a lot of like for someone to understand that like it's all one reality with many layers. It can be quite the like an overwhelming like it's hard to explain. So it's kind of easy just to say like the spirit world is the other side for people who aren't as familiar. So I understand why they do it. It's just I don't know. From my perspective, it's just, we've got one reality going. It's not like, you know, it's all part of the same thing. So,
Yeah, I read this book called Choosing to Be a Medium,
hmm.
and she's like a self-taught medium, and a lot of people that write books like this, especially about mediumship, there's like a lot of like politics about mediumship, I guess.
Yeah,
But
drama,
yeah, that's a good word for it,
drama,
drama.
drama.
And like she was saying how like there's basically the physical existence here on Earth, and then
Hmm.
there's the afterlife where we just plan our life to come
Hmm.
back to Earth. And it just seems like after everything that I've gone through with like regressing people, it's just so like two dimensional to me.
Yeah, I think the way that I view it is like almost anything is possible. And so, are there people who, they die and then they plan their life and they come back? Yeah, sure, there are. But like, that's not a good depiction of reality. That's an experience inside of reality. And so I think a lot of people like they want it to be a set rule because the idea that it could really be anything is terrifying to them. So they join a religion. The religion says this is what happens after you die, gives them this feeling of certainty. And maybe that is what happens because they're part of a system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I was going to bring up the religion thing too. Like a lot of people come from a religion,
Mm-hmm.
and even people who don't like for example, if I like a year ago would
Mm-hmm.
have listened to myself talking to you right now about this, I'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, he's out of his mind. Like
Yeah.
he's an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely get it. Where people are like, no, no way. Like
Mm-hmm.
I had this I'm gonna call it regression just for simplicity's sake. I had this regression done to me where I was ripped apart by a Sasquatch.
Ooh.
And that was weird. It was the last thing on my mind. I, I I couldn't have been farther away from thinking about like Sasquatch, and then all of a sudden I'm being torn apart, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" So that was,
Yeah.
and I actually have that recording. It's probably going to be a
Wow.
bonus episode, but
Wow.
yeah, man, before I'd have been like, "Oh yeah, he." If I was looking at myself from the past, I'd have been like, "Yeah, he's making that up." Like
Mm-hmm.
that was your own imagination. But
Right.
a couple things came from that couldn't possibly have been it couldn't possibly have been made up because of stuff that came after that was
Mm-hmm.
like it was impossible. I
Right.
don't even know how to talk about it because it was so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, over time, you'll get the words for it, but sometimes you just have to process the whole thing. You know. Well, I was going to mention about, the episode you did with those two, the medium and I forget, um,
Yeah, Christian Vera.
Chrissy and Vera. Yeah. I was going to mention though, because this is kind of one of the things that made me think about is they seem to, their channeling seems to talk about it as if they're part of a system. And that's what it sounded like to me. Because
Yeah,
they said things like, oh, you plan your whole life out.
and I tried to ask them about that too. I'm actually going to go on their show again coming up
Hmm.
here in January. So maybe I'll get a chance to talk about them or talk about that with them a little bit more,
Hmm.
but
But
a
yeah, it
lot of
just sounded like a
people
system to
a,
me.
a lot of people look at it as a system. They really do.
Hmm.
Even other regression practitioners look at
Hmm.
it as like a system or a structure. And I definitely can see why. Like I've seen the structure in my own work, but
Hmm.
then I've seen stuff that you're just like, what in the hell
Oh
are
yeah.
you
Yeah.
talking about, dude?
Yeah, I think that some people they want a system, they want structure, so they become part of one. I think that's probably the majority of people, be my guess.
It goes back to that thing where you're like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're gonna find what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
So let's talk about some other cool stuff that you've seen
Hmm.
that in your astral projection, because I can't get enough of those stories. I love it. It's just so
Oh
weird
yeah.
and awesome.
Yeah.
I wish that I could do it, but I've tried and I just
Yeah.
can't. I can't do it, man. I've tried it so many times.
To get out of body.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tried all
Um,
kinds of different methods. I think the aphantasia, I think it just stops you. It's too
oh, I
hard.
wanna try something. I don't know if during the podcast or after, but I want to try something with you with that aphantasia. I'm curious about something. But
Yeah, go for it. If you want to do it now or later, I
oh,
don't
right
care. I'm
now?
sure I'm whatever you want, man. Unless it's like
I'm
requires
curious
meditating.
about if it's all your senses or just your sight.
I think it's just my sight.
So here, I'll guide you through a really quick
Okay,
mental
okay.
experiment or
Let's try it. Hey everyone. I'm interrupting the episode to tell you all about my Patreon campaign. I love doing this podcast, and it is amazing to hear from people telling me how much they love it too. It takes a ton of time and effort to keep producing content every single week for you guys, and I would love to put out even more for everyone to enjoy. By subscribing to a tier in my Patreon campaign, you can help support the show, provide more episodes, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and just extra content in general. So if you enjoy the show and you feel it's worth your time listening and would like to contribute, you can go to patreon.com/theregressionsession. There's also a link in the description. Thanks so much for the support. I could never do this show without each and every one of you. Now back to the episode.
All right, so I want you to think of yourself standing outside your bedroom door. Okay.
Like my office door?
Any door, doesn't matter that you that is associated with you.
Okay. All right. I'm outside. All right. I'm thinking it. Let's do it.
So, and then what you want to do is you just want to sort of sit down on the ground in front of that door, put your hand on the ground, and see if you can feel the flooring, like the carpet or wood floor or whatever it is.
I can't like physically feel it, but I get like the impression of what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's like fuzzy carpet.
Okay. Can you put your hands together in this sort of like imagination? Like,
yeah, but again, I don't feel it. Like I'm rubbing them. I'm rubbing them up and down.
Interesting. Okay. So it's like there's a little part there that where your mind is registering it, but like the sensation's blocked, right? Something like that.
Yeah. What's weird? So I've actually found something that's really strange, Brandon, is I've accidentally came across this, and I don't want to. I'm going to cut this part out because there are a lot of aphantasia people that listen to my show.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to do an experiment with this, so I'm cutting it out now.
Interesting. Yeah, because I remember when I started practicing with other people, we would do sort of a partial projection so that we could still be in like Discord or whatever and talking. And I remember that after practicing that for a while, my sight got better. Like visually, like my ability to imagine things. So I was just curious about which senses you have access to, or what it is there that's preventing it.
It's just so hard to describe because it's like I know what's happening. It's almost like a download. Because like I said, when you were talking to me just now, I was like, oh, I'm rubbing my hands together. Like,
yeah.
But I couldn't feel it. I couldn't see it. I couldn't hear it.
Could we try one more thing?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's try.
What I want you to do is I want you to take your hands, rub them together, and then lift them up towards your face and see if you can just feel what your face feels like and your eyes, and feel if there's what you want to look for is just
like sitting outside my office again.
Yeah. And
okay.
You kind of, what you do with the imagined pair of hands is you kind of just inspect your senses, you know.
I don't have any eyes. That's fucking creepy, bro.
I think we figured it out.
I got a nose. Because hold on, let me mess around.
Yeah.
I have a mouth. Let me feel my ears. It's like half ears. It's so weird, dude. What is going on?
Yeah.
Weird.
So this, do you want to know why I wanted to have you do this?
Why?
Because I took a look like earlier, like just in meditation, and I'm like, this guy doesn't have any eyes.
Dude, no way. Dude, you're f***ing with me right now.
Oh, I'm not. In fact, I was about to say, I didn't want to prime it. I couldn't say too much earlier, but I was like, I want him to feel his face and just see what senses are there. But I couldn't be like, check your eyes out because I didn't want to prime it.
Dude,
But
I'm
yeah,
freaking out. What the hell? Okay, that was
like I said, it's
wild.
not too hard when you practice. It's not too hard to find confirmation. So that's at least confirmation for me. I don't know about you, but
I got like
yeah,
half. I had like half ears, like the bottom part of my ears, like my earlobes were there, and that it was nothing. I
yeah,
had my
yeah.
hair.
So
Dude, that's creepy, Brandon. What
later
the
I want
hell
to
is
try
wrong with
something
you?
else, but I don't know. I don't know if during the podcast is a good time because it would take you'd probably have to cut it up because I'd have to go deep into meditation. But there was a thing I used to do for people like way back when I was first starting out is I would go just partially out of body and I'd craft eyes with the different layers of energy and give them to people. Because most people, if they don't practice astral projection, they just have the physical eyes, the dream eyes, and they have maybe one other layer there, but they don't have any of the, like the. But yeah, I'd be curious to see if that has any effect on your perception. But yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's definitely do that.
Yeah.
I'm just like probably not right now, but
Not right now.
okay,
No.
so let's rewind a minute, Brandon. What the
Yeah.
hell were you doing creeping on me, bro?
The thing is y- you just that when you're thinking about people, it's like you said, thoughts are real. They're not. So when you have a very high level of perception, you just see things all the time. When you're talking to people, uh, you know, when you're thinking about something, like if I'm contemplating having a conversation with you and I'm running through stuff in my head, oh, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. Sometimes there's flashes in my mind of information. So, and I'm curious about aphantasia because I want to know whether it's like a physical ailment or whether it's a psychological one. You know what I mean?
I have been thinking about this for so long about like what is aphantasia? Because
Hmm.
obviously the standard materialist thing that people would say, hold on, I'm gonna Google it.
Okay.
Yeah. And everybody can just hear
I
me typing.
believe it is the inability to see, to picture images in one's mind. I believe that's what aphantasia is.
It
Um,
says, well, I know what it is, but like I'm trying to
mhm.
see if they have a cause. Like the official definition is the inability to form mental images of objects that are
Right.
not present. So like that whole thing of like counting sheep, they literally have that as an example
Yeah.
on here. I when my mom would be like, okay, count sheep, and I'd be like, one, two,
Yeah.
and there'd be nothing, and
So
I'm like, why am I doing this?
I don't believe there's any known cause. Yeah. Or any known solution to it. Not known, at least yet.
I'm taking a look. Okay, it says scientists aren't sure what causes aphantasia. Most people with this condition are born with it and are otherwise healthy, or others develop it after a brain injury. Oh, the ability to create mental images exists on a spectrum. That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, what are you doing? That was my son.
Oh, okay.
He's like, he walks in, he's like, hey, daddy, what are you doing? I'll probably
So,
keep that in.
yeah. So this has been interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
I've had different people tell me different things about me. Okay. It's
okay.
weird, Brandon. Like, I had this one guy, and I was like, yeah, this one psychic told me that I have my crown chakra, or not my crown, my throat chakra is the my like my main one or my strongest
Yeah.
one. And this guy was like, yeah, I actually had that download too before when I was meditating about
Hmm.
this. I was like, yeah, your throat chakra is crazy strong. And then he was like, by the way, Archangel Michael's with you, eh? I was like,
Oh,
what? I
that's
was like,
cool.
I don't believe in Archangel Michael. He's like, yeah, but he's real and he's there.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that um anything that someone believes exists, any sort of spiritual being, is either going to come into existence from that, belief, itself like be spawned by the belief, or is something that pre-exists. So
I believe that too. I also believe
yeah.
that about Jesus too. But let's go back, Brandon. I'm not done talking to you about why you saw
Oh,
me
okay.
with no eyes. I'm kind
That's
of just
literally
like
like all I saw. There was two imageries that came to mind. His first was just uh imagine someone that has no eyes, but that it's not like there's gaping holes or anything. It's just like dark.
it was
I don't
like
know.
skin. It was like flat, smooth
Yeah,
skin
exactly.
where I was feeling. It was creepy. It was
But because
creepy.
there was no like, what should I call it? It was just as if there was just like imagine a creature that has no eyes, basically.
Yeah. So did you see my
Naturally
face?
that way almost,
Did
but
you see my face?
no. But
Okay. I was like, do you know what I look like? Here, I'll show you what I look
no, I
like.
didn't get, and astral stuff. No, I did
That's
not
what
see
I
your
look
face.
like.
Yeah.
Like there's my
So,
camera.
yeah, no, I didn't see your face, but like it was just that was the detail that stood out. And then I'm like, is this really the case? And I looked again, and I saw sort of just like sealed shut eyes or like closed eyes, like sleeping almost. So I'm like, well, one of those is correct. Like either he, either doesn't have eyes or his eyes are shut or this sort
Yeah,
of
I
thing.
didn't feel any eyes. That's so weird, Brandon. Dude, I'm kind of weirded out that you that ew.
I mean, it wasn't that weird. I mean, I see far worse things. Like I could tell you of the experience that happened recently. It was more of a vision, but
Tell me, I want it. I want to know
curious.
it.
I actually wrote it down, so I'm gonna should I read it to you or should I just tell you about it? Um,
Whatever you want, whatever you feel
I'll
more
read it and then
comfortable.
I'll tell you about. How about this? So I keep a log. I've got loads of stuff here that's interesting, but
I like
so
logs.
here's the vision. Let's see. Another vision. This one transitioned from a dream. I was in a different country, I think South America, because I saw Black Panther at one point. In the dream, I was investigating disappearances. So like people were disappearing for like they didn't know why. And as the dream went on, it became more and more like a vision. It was revealed to me that there was a corrupt police responsible for disappearances. And actually, this is a real thing in some South American countries that are like really corrupt, where the mob, or well, the mafia or the drug lords or whatever are like in cahoots with the police. But yeah, and
Yeah.
then in this dream, it says, okay, let's see, where was I at? Um, it was revealed to me that there was corrupt police responsible for the disappearances. They were kidnapping people for a cult. At this point, I went into vision. I was laying on my childhood bed. A demon that looked like a floating orb or hand, though it was vague, came to me. He began to speak to me about what I had seen and eventually summoned a person with a large beard beside where I was laying. I could see that he was startled, and I briefly thought about tying him in place so that I could trust he wouldn't do anything. However, the demon told me to be careful and not to tie tightly, so that I decided against it at that point. After a brief conversation between the three of us, I agreed to give him all the information I knew. So I filled an orb of light with everything that I had seen and a few extra details, and I placed the orb inside the bearded man's head. Afterwards, he left and the demon stayed around, so I commanded him to leave because he was annoying me. And then I also wrote, it seems to me that I was acting as a translator of sorts between the two of them. The demon didn't seem malicious. I thought he was just carrying out a task for someone. He also left behind a dark wake behind him that evaporated as he moved. He was funny, but also annoying. It was very interesting.
Okay.
Those are the kind of
Yeah.
things that happen to me, just on occasion. So, yeah,
That's interesting. Dude, my mind is still blown. I was when you're just like, I touch your
you're
face.
still back trying to process.
Yeah, no, I just seriously am like,
Well,
it'll
anyways,
be fine, dude.
it'll
I
be
think
fine.
people are gonna be like, what in the world?
Yeah, but when I teach people how to read people, it's actually very similar to your regression where there's doors and you typically you write the name of whoever you're trying to read or yourself on a door or you find your own door. Like that's why I said pick a door to your bedroom or your office or something. Because the associative nature of it being something that's connected to you lets you see yourself typically more clearly.
So
So
I'm gonna do that to my friend John, who has aphantasia, and see what he
yeah,
thinks and see what
see if
he
he can
feels.
get the senses from the tactile senses and figure out what's going on.
I have this
Yeah.
feeling. I have this feeling that I didn't used to have any ears at all,
Yeah.
but they're kind of like growing. It felt like they were kind of like growing,
Oh,
if that's it makes
yeah.
sense.
No, I would agree. You know, because the spirit body, or the let's put it this way, when you imagine touching your own face, you're not touching your physical face. You're touching your mind's perception, right? And your mind's perception is deeply linked to your energetic body. Part of it's physical, right? Because you have a perception of your physical body. Part of it's going to be dream body. Part of it's going to be energetic, just the layers, right? So, the dream body and the energetic body can be modified so they can either heal damages or you can change things and you can install, you know, extra sensory. Some people who I know who are really into modification, like really into modification, they'll go through and they'll modify their psyche like all the time to get it exactly how they want it. It's kind of similar to your thing when you're talking about the ring preventing nightmares, except it's more direct. Yeah,
That is interesting.
you know. Yeah, astral projection gets crazy because you have this astral body and it's changeable and alterable, and suddenly you have this huge canvas which to change things, and then you're like, oh, I'll change this, and then you get back to physical and you realize that you see things differently or something, like perceptions different or interactions end up being different, that kind of thing.
I'm still weirded out. Hold on, just give me a second. Just give me a second, dude. I know that we're supposed to move on, but I'm
Hey,
just like sitting here.
if you want to sit there for a bit, I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick and I'll be back.
Yeah, dude, go take your
Yeah.
number two
All
or
right.
whatever, and I'll be back, and I'll just be sitting here. I'm still thinking about it, man. I'm
Oh,
still
you're gonna
thinking
have to
about
think
it.
about it for a bit here.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah,
So,
but the thing I tell people when they want to project, if they're like, "Oh, I'm not good at visualizing," I'm like, "You don't need to visualize. You just need one of your senses to be decent." You know what I mean? So you check all the senses. You check hearing. You check, I mean, you can do taste, smell. Oh man, I could tell you crazy stories when it comes to like that sort of thing. Um, Tactile senses, warmth, feeling of energy. There's all these senses. Like for instance, the one here, I'll tell you a crazy story right now if you want to.
lay it on me.
So when I was practicing with like I early on, or I shouldn't say early on, but early on to practicing with other people in 2020, I go around and I'm looking for, a group of astral projectioners. I'm on Reddit. Someone links the Discord. I join it. There's a bunch of people there. We share stories. It's fun. Then there's one guy that comes on. He's like, "Hey, I can read people. Can I read you?" So I'm like, "All right, sure." I was thinking, this guy probably doesn't, I doubt he can do it, but we'll see if he can. So he goes and he reads me, and he actually does a pretty good job. So I'm like, "All right, that's cool." So I developed this friendship with him. And he's like, "Hey, man, there's this problem I'm running into. I sort of got into a fight with a cult, and I don't know what to do. And then he's like, "But do you have any advice? Whatever, whatever." I'm like, "Hey, I'll help you out. Just go ahead and like, add me to whatever Discord you're a part of." Because he was saying, it's him and a couple of people that are having problems with this cult. So I'm like, "All right, we'll see what this is up." So I get there, and it wasn't exactly what he thought it was. It was a lot crazier than that. Basically, one of the people there was a psychic vampire, and they were sort of psychologically manipulating all these people in this Discord, making them think that, oh, they're being attacked by these. And he was like, "These things are like, they'll show up, they pull, grab my feet when I'm in bed, they'll wake me up, this sort of thing." entities, this sort of thing. And he was like, and they put devices in us and all these sort of weird, kind of crazy stuff. And so I began helping him out. And I noticed that this one person's basically a vampire. From day one, I'm like, yeah, that's a psychic vampire. And the thing that psychic vampires like to do is they like to get inside people's heads, so they mess with them. They steal their energy, then they use their energy to manipulate them, by creating all these fantasies of beings entering dreams and stuff like that. So I caught on to that this was going on, and I sort of, over time, that could be a whole story in itself. I cleaned it up, basically. So afterwards, I had this, group of people who wanted to like practice, and I'd sort of earn their respect. And one of the guys is like, I was telling him, I'm like, yeah, you got to get out of body so you can do astral drugs, right? Because he hadn't actually been completely out of body. He'd just done partial projection. So I'm like, well, we could try in partial projection. So he's like, yeah, sure. I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And he was like, oh, let's smoke something. So I'm like, all right, I'll go look for something. So I just go into partial projection, open up a door, find some like a marijuana plant or something growing, and I, harvest a certain amount, and I send him a bag of it, and I'm like, all right, here you go, here's yours, I've got mine. Let's try this out. So he partial projects thinking that this is bullshit, and he just eats the whole bag, and he has an intense psychedelic trip where he sees this golden figure and he thinks that it's God. He's like convinced for like 20 minutes straight. And like, I'm just over here like smoking a joint being like, oh, this is pretty great. But yeah, he like kind of like blew his mind.
Okay, so there's astral drugs now?
Oh yeah.
What?
Oh yeah. When you enter the world of the I don't know if I want to call it the psychological world or just the world of thought or whatever you want to call it, but world of consciousness, you're dealing with, like a drug, you take it to alter your consciousness. An astral drug is a direct energy going directly into the consciousness. So it's basically, it's a drug just in the same way, just more direct.
That's weird, man.
So there's been a lot of things where people are like, oh, this isn't that real or whatever. And then they do something like you where they just try something out and that just blows their mind. So it's pretty crazy.
This whole entire thing has blown my mind. And this isn't the first time I've had my mind blown.
Really?
I just like, well, yeah, well, let me tell you something that happened to me. And
okay.
I've talked about this so many times. After that whole Sasquatch thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have this spirit guide and I didn't know anything about him besides he looks like an owl, right? But what happened is the Sasquatch tore this dude apart. His name was Bart. It wasn't like my past life. It was a spirit rescue where I'd rescue like a fragment of a soul that was kind of trapped in like a Groundhog Day of his most traumatic moment. If that makes sense.
Yep.
And so right as he was about to get up by this Sasquatch, they removed me from his body and they're like, yeah, we're not going to let you experience this. And I saw the Sasquatch take like 3 or 4 steps, smack the dude's gun out of his hand, rip his arms off. The dude fell down to his knees. He pissed himself and he shit himself. And then he ripped his arms or ripped his legs off and then crushed his rib cage and twisted his head off. And that was that. Then he stomped around the campsite and then he like stopped and then like flipped his head in my direction, me, Ian, outside of his body. And he knew that I was there and he started psychically attacking me, dude. Like I felt a pressure on my head and like he was like projecting fear at me. It only kind of worked, but my spirit guide, as soon as that happened, he flipped his wings out and wrapped me up in his wings, and he was an eagle this time and took me away. I learned his name. His name was, which was pretty cool. Fast forward, I'm regressing my friend John, and I only told my wife his name at this point. I've told like 1 million people now. And John is in this cathedral with no doors or anything. And I was like, okay, well, where are you supposed to go? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, is there anyone there with you? I'm sure you can see where this is going. but he was like, yeah, there is. I was like, okay, well, describe them. He was like, there's a guy floating in the ceiling. He has big black shiny wings and fangs, and he's really scary looking, and he has a cloak. I said, ask him why he's there. And he was like, he doesn't know why he's here. I said, okay, well, ask him what his name is. And he paused and he was like, his name's
Nice. Interesting.
yeah. And then I
That's
was like,
really cool.
and then he confirmed that it was my spirit guide. And then
Yep.
I manifested an elevator for John,
Hmm.
and he went down the elevator, and he was kind of scared, but like held his hand in the elevator,
Hmm.
and he's like, "That's really nice." I was like, "Yeah, he is, isn't he?"
Yeah,
So
awesome.
that's one thing that happened to me, and that blew my mind. I literally felt like an electric shock went through my body when he said, "It's like, oh my!"
Wow.
I was like,
Yeah.
because I hadn't told anybody, and that's not like a common name.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed that like when it comes to some of these things, especially when it comes to reading or like inspecting yourself, like I just had you do a little while ago, often like there's a different level of understanding that comes with it when when you see something new or interesting than if you were, say, told or if you um, saw evidence of it. Like it's more intimate, the understanding.
You got a sense that me, Ian, had no eyes or they were sealed shut or something, and then I was
Well,
just like, yeah, I don't got any eyes.
I was actually kind of curious about aphantasia, and I'm just like, well, what is this? And I'm like, oh yeah, because you have aphantasia. I always hear there's a lot of people, especially in astral projection, that'll be like, oh, I have aphantasia, because they have a reason to bring it up because obviously most of the techniques involve visualization. Um, so it's just something I've been curious about for a while. So I'm like, oh, that's right. Ian has aphantasia, and I was kind of thinking on that, and I think I was meditating. I was just contemplating things, and that's kind of when I just saw like the perception for a moment. That was like, oh, he doesn't have any eyes. But yeah, it's very common to have like what they call flashes of insight, for me at least. People who have good senses tend to get types of flashes of insight, whether it be just information or images or sounds or anything like that. So it was just a flash of insight, I guess.
Right on, yeah. And I've had a couple similar things, but like like I said, it kind of felt like my ears were growing, and it might be because I feel like I just barely got to the point where I can kind of hear when my spirit guide talks to me, kind of. Um, and I feel like it's kind of changing. So, what was that thing that you said that you wanted to try that would take deeper meditation?
Yeah, I wanna give you a pair of eyes. No idea how that'll work, but I'm just curious, like whether it's a psyche thing or whether it's a physical thing, like a structure of the brain kind of thing, or if it's something that's like just psyche, you know?
Yeah, it would be definitely interesting. What we'll have to do is record it. We'll have to do is like set it up and then
Yeah, we
record
can
it
we
and
can
see
do
what
it later.
happens.
It doesn't have to be now. Um, but when there's a good time, we can try. And I'll probably have to like, sh I mean, you already gonna have a decent understanding because when you do regressions, you're sort of out of body. It's kind of like a partial projection. Um,
No, you are out of body.
yeah,
When
yeah,
you do this, I've had multiple people tell me that when you're doing these regressions, if that's what you want to call it, you're
yeah.
not just seeing these things, you're actually there.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it sounds like. I don't really use hypnosis as a method for getting out. I'm more of the person that goes through meditation, but I assume because it's the similarities are there from what you've said and what people say. But yeah, that's then in other words, that is partial projection. Yeah, a form of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. A lot of the
So,
time, well, I mean, if someone's coming to me and like they have their own I don't want to call it baggage because that makes it seem like negative, but if they have their own issues that they need to work on, right? They're not going to get to the point where they're doing that. But because if I've had multiple, like a lot of people come to me and they've actually seen their own past life. I think you kind of have to work through that stuff with the hypnosis before you can move on to other things. I think that that's a necessary thing. I've helped a lot of people with it.
Yeah.
But once they get past that point, like my buddy John, he had one life that was kind of that he needed to work through, and then he just slipped right into doing all this other weird stuff. And it's crazy, man. But I think we should wrap up the actual episode because we've been talking for a while, and this one's going to take a lot of editing because it's all over the place. Everything that I could have talked about got thrown out the window as soon as I was like, "Oh, I don't have any eyes," and you're like, "I knew it, and I was like, "God." So, Brandon, thanks again for coming on the show, man. It was super cool, kind of creepy, super cool though. And let's see if we can get me a pair of eyes. That'd be dope.
Yeah, we should try. I don't know if it'll work, but we should try.
That's it for today's episode. I would like to thank Brandon for coming on and talking with me about astral projection and stuff, and helping me go through that super weird experience. It was super awesome and kind of creepy at the same time. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe in your podcast player through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're listening right now. It will help me out a lot, help me get the show out there. Head on over to my Facebook group if you want to make a post and interact with me. If you want to come onto the podcast, my email is theregressionsession@gmail.com, and I would love to have you on the show. I like logs.